Morning, everybody. It is April 29th, 8:10 a.m. Welcome to my channel. Now, the markets did a little fake out twice yesterday, really. Kind of ripped up from the open, then sold off, only to really go and form like a balanced low now. And that makes sense just because there's so much data coming out this week. So many earnings, big earnings are coming out this week. Probably someone doesn't want to be holding the bag. So I think we should maybe stay range bound. At least, let's see here, at least until probably tomorrow, because then after the close on Wednesday, there's Meta, Microsoft, right? Then the next day you have Amazon and Apple. So now it doesn't always work like that, but that's what it seems like, and the volume has been so low. Check this volume out. We're at ES is at 36% of relative volume over the last 20 days. Nasdaq's at 53. The volume has definitely fell off. So you're getting nice ranges because of the volatility, but the volume is definitely low. So, and we're coming to month end. So this week is fireworks. Really is. Really is. All right. So without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets, along supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That's my edge, and that's how I look at the markets. All right, and that's how I hope to share them with you. Now, yesterday I did do a little switch up. Not sure if anybody liked that better or not. I just know for the masses, people are used to looking at candlesticks. So I combined the candlesticks and the market profile together and came up with scenarios. Maybe I'll try that again today. We'll see. Go back to the old school. Not really sure what I want to do unless someone says that they liked it better, right? So that's what's going on there. Now, hopefully, you guys join me every morning. All right, give you the market story. I'll give you the leaders and the laggards, market news, economic calendar. Of course, we go over the daily charts, the triple-headed monster. That's your bond market, your dollar, and your fix. And then I go into the NASDAQ and ES futures and analyze those. Then come up with scenarios, right? And then the only thing I can't give you is my scenarios when the market opens. Nobody knows how everything's going to fall when the market opens because new plans arise. That's not going to be possible, right? It's impossible to give you that. So hopefully you guys join me. Now, without further ado, why don't we get right into futures watch list and see what's moving markets this morning, okay? All right, so we have Ethereum, okay? Ethereum is leading the pack, up 2%, followed by silver, up 0.72, Dow's up 0.42, Bitcoin's up 0.42, dollar is up. The dollar is up today, 0.33. 10-year yields are up. The VIX is pretty much flat, 25 VIX. ES is flat. 30-year bonds are flat. Nasdaq is down 0.14. Gold is down 0.84. Gold's pulling back. Crude down 1.40. Okay. Now crude broke an uptrend earlier. Thought about a short on that, but then I just said I don't like where it's at. Crude. Now, if we go into a recession or something, there's going to be a lower demand for crude. However, I think in the past, oil does rise when times are rough. Sometimes, initially they go down. So we'll see. We will see. All right, moving on to the Max 7 Plus. All right. And we have Coinbase up 0.96. That Bitcoin proxy, basically. Berkshire Hathaway up 2.20. And the market's pretty muted right now. All right, so lagging, Netflix down to 0.26, AMD down 0.27. Now NXP, a semi, had bad earnings. It's not one of the large ones, but like it's affecting semis a little bit. Broadcom down 0.33, Nvidia down 0.58. Okay, let's go to the guts of the market, the sectors here, and let's just look at those. Now, the leader this morning is basic materials, which is more defensive. Um, Financials up 0.19. They're both up 0.19. That's not much. The laggards, though, you have technology down 0.11, semis down 0.30, and energy is the laggard today, down 0.37. I think on future demand concerns. Okay. All right, move on to the economic calendar. We'll go over the economic calendar, then the earnings calendar. All right, so today we have looks like we have good trades balance, retail inventories, wholesale inventories, all at 8:30. All right, at 10 a.m. we have Jolts Jobs and consumer confidence. So I'm probably gonna, unless there's some amazing setup around 9:40, 9:45, then I'm gonna probably just wait for this dust to settle. API crude. All right, that's what we have there for today. Now, as far as earnings. All right, earnings. We had reports this morning: SoFi, PayPal, UPS, JetBlue. All right, there's an NXP on the close yesterday. Um, Coca-Cola, Pfizer, Royal Caribbean, Spotify, Altria. After the close today, Visa, Starbucks, Snap, For Solar. Those are the ones today. Now, before they open tomorrow, Humana, Healthcare, Caterpillar, that's your industrials. Okay, Western Digital, that's hard drives. And then we have ADP, that's payment processing, Hess, and GE Healthcare. Okay, that's before the open. All right. So as far as news this morning, let's look at some news. All right. So General Motors stock fell 2% despite the auto giant reporting first quarter earnings. Coca-Cola stock rose. Coca-Cola stock rose 1% after the soft drinks giant reported a smaller than expected drop in the first quarter revenue. Kraft Heinz stock fell 0.4. Pfizer stock fell 0.2 after the drug company reported first quarter profit above expectations. Spotify stock slumped after streaming music service unveiled a current quarter guidance for monthly active users that was below expectations. UPS stock rose 2.1 after the delivery giant reported better than expected earnings for the first quarter. Royal Caribbean stock rose 4% after the cruise operator raised its annual profit forecast on Tuesday, benefiting from strong bookings for its premium sailings in regions such as Alaska and Japan. PayPal stock fell 2.1 after the payments company beat estimates for the first quarter earnings, but only maintained its annual profit forecast amid economic uncertainty. Here's the semiconductor. NXP Semiconductor stock fell 7.7 after the chipmaker only slightly beat expectations for revenue and announced CEO Kurt Sievers would retire by the end of the year. Insider Rafael Sotomayor would succeed him. All right. What else is going on here? Let's look at the juice. I don't think the juice really has anything for us today. No, not there. Moving on. Let's see if there's anything we didn't cover here. Talked about Coca-Cola, Pfizer, UPS. Okay. Right here, oil prices declined as tariff concern dampened demand outlook. Okay. Like I said, I'm just going to mention stuff that is real pertinent. Let's see here. Oh, Novartis. This is something because I own some hymns here. The company released a more optimistic full earnings forecast, citing the growth of drugs such as Lacuvo, Kisqali, and Kesimpta. I'm probably chopping up those names. The Swiss drug maker said in a statement that it expects 2025 operating adjusted for special items to grow by a low double-digit percentage. It had previously projected high single to low digit growth. All right. There was news about them partnering with Hims. I guess that's not the part. But they're partnering with Hims to sell their weight loss drug, Wegovy. So that's sending Hims up. It was up a lot earlier, like almost 40%. Only up 20% now, only, but it's pretty good. That's got a lot of short interest in that stock. We'll have to see. Let's see here. I'm only going to go over stuff that's pertinent. Let's see. PepsiCo, the company's Gatorade unit, won the dismissal of a lawsuit by a former world champion sprinter Isam Masinga, who blamed his 4-year doping ban on eating recovery gummies contaminated by performance-enhancing drug. All right. Qualcomm, British semiconductor company Alphawave, said the UK takeover panel has extended to The deadline for a takeover offer about the U.S. chipmaker to me. Okay. Tesla, the car maker, in an update on Semi, said that the first units of the electric trucks will be on the production line by the end of 2025, as its Nevada Gigafactory campus. All right. All right. I think we can move on to daily charts. So why don't we do that? There's not much to talk about, but we'll talk about it anyway, right? All right. All right, let's look at the SPY. Had a doji candle yesterday. Basically, you can see that orange is last week's highs. That's exactly where we closed. Okay, so market gave a scare. Now, based on that Huawei chip, that their AI chip making, that hurt semis. So semis tech was weak early on, which tech, when it's not strong, is not the best for the market, and it winded up falling, but then it winded up getting bought right up. Okay, basically almost touched the previous day's lows and then got bought up for the rest of the session. All right, you can see we're right at last month's lows. Again, talking about this again, 561, let's call it. That's your 50-day moving average. That's your anchor VWAP for this year. Okay, I would say if we're going to push up higher, we're probably going to go there. Okay, that would be the destination. All right, where are we at now? 550. We're only slightly below the close. Okay, now in this now in the stock equity chart, you don't see you see a 2-day bounce basically. In futures, you see a little more time because of the futures. Okay, and I can see range bound market at least till tomorrow, through tomorrow. All right, there's this uncertainty in this market. All right, let's look at futures real quick. So you can see, look, TM futures, there's like a 3-day bounce basically. So you have this resistance here, let's call it 55.73, last week's highs, right? We're back underneath last week's highs, just last month's lows. I think we can probably call this area some balance, right? You just ripped higher 4 days in a row. You need to take a rest, okay? So that is your ES and your SPY. We'll go over to the Qs here. Here's the Qs, all right? So the Qs, all right, closed right at last week's low, right at last week's highs. I'm sorry. 2-day balance literally hit the previous day's lows, right? This is the anchor VWAP from 2024, right underneath these candles. Okay. Again, their 50-day moving average, just call it 479. The anchor VWAP is 481. Okay. Get rid of this trend line. All right. So just have to see. You got the 9 EMA crossing up between the 20, declining 50, the death cross here. Okay. Now, well, where are we at now? 471.10, about 471.10. We're about right here. Almost the mid of yesterday, almost. Okay, let's look at the futures. See, futures are just balancing. 3 equal highs pretty much. That's last week's highs. Inside last week's range, right? We're inside last month's range. So that's interesting, right? You're deeper into last month than the SPY. Okay. All right, moving on. Looking at the triple-headed monster now. Let's look at that 10-year yield here. All right, let's see what's going on here. All right, so it looks like we're in a downtrend now. Let's put a little downtrend on here. Okay. Let's get out of that. All right. So we're right at the 200-day moving average. We're below 20, the 2024 anchor VWAP. All right. You can see we hit this year's anchor VWAP. That was resistance. Let's see. Like I said, there's poor structure here. We can rip right down to 3.99. Who knows if we do it? Okay, I don't know that. I don't know if I put this up yet. All right, then we can go to the dollar. Let's look at that dollar together. The dollar did make a rise, but now it's kind of like chopping around here. All right, you can see it's up just because it came down yesterday. Okay, so like I said, I am interested probably in some kind of long dollar, but we'll have to see. Okay, let's look at the VIX. That's your 30 days out of fear. All right, 30 days out of hedging, however you want to call it. Remember, we were in this range for a pretty long time. Now we dipped, broke below the 28, and we're now working into a new range around 24 to 27. Okay, and it's like I said this yesterday. The way I trade, the way my system is, this is definitely giving more. Once we get into the 30s, my edge is doubled a little bit with how I look at internals, how I look at certain internal readings. Here, they're too quick. You really can't. The things change on a dime. Now, at least we're here. I can sit there and look at the market and be like, okay, this is probably what's going to happen. So yesterday, I didn't think we were going to fall out of bed based on the internals, and we didn't, right? So that edge is back. All right. Luckily for me, you don't really stay in a 30 VIX for that long. All right. Now, that's your VIX. We'll have to see what goes on. Remember, this market has a lot of stuff coming up this week. All right. Now, let's go over to the market profile, line profile. All right. I'm going to go to the big chart first. Might stay there, might not. I don't know. Give me one sec while I pull that up. I know yesterday I experimented with that hourly chart. Not sure if that helped anybody or not. I know it's easier on the eyes if you're new. Obviously, myself, I prefer the market profile, volume profile chart. Much easier for me to plan stuff. It's not like I can't do it the other way. So here's your market profile, volume profile. This is what you're used to seeing. All right, let's see what's going on here. Now, remember I talked about the balance, right? So you can just see in sheer time. Look at this market. No, this is crude. Jeez. Sorry about that. This is our market here. So you can see, what are we doing, right? Now, let's just look at the profile, right? The weekly profile. So you have thin volume, and then you have a bunch of volume coming here. Now, what this is telling me, just off profile, is it has a bullish imbalance to the profile. A complete profile is going to look like this. Okay, you're going to have a bell curve. So this is looking like it's begging to go higher. Okay, and now why I say that is we have now the most traded price of 55.50. It's right here. So anytime you move that most traded price of the week, it's a rolling week, up higher, that's just bullish. Okay, it means you're accepting value higher. Okay, you have these single prints down here. Okay, you know what? I keep on forgetting to put these single prints there. There's that gap. We still haven't filled the gap. So let me correct two things here. So that would be how much we filled the gap yesterday. You got to take that down. And then, all right, I'm going to take these single prints here and make sure I have them on my chart. I forgot to put them there. Have a preset for that. Okay, so we got single prints there. So now that I have that on my chart, all right, so let's throw this to the back. Okay. All right, so very clearly, look, in futures, right? You make the move up, and what do? your holding price is higher, right? You can see that with each session. I can see that with the profile, right? Either way, it's easier on the eyes. The profile just like, oh, all right, we're holding value. This is value, right? Price is right here. Okay, so yesterday, let's recap it. What exactly happened? Ooh. All right, let's look at yesterday. Give me a sec here. Let's open this up. All right. So yesterday we opened here, we drove up, and it was like, whoop, boy, what are we doing here? And then all of a sudden, now at this point, tech was not strong. And then I wanted to get short right in here, and I was waiting for a pullback. Didn't get it. And then, boom, we came down to here. Where did we come down to? The overnight lows. Okay. I did get long in here and took some profit right here, but then got stopped. I got stopped. Okay. And then with gamma flip points, it came to another level of mine, the SPY. And I winded up like, I think I got long in here, I want to say. And it ripped up. You could see it ripped all the way up here. And I was like, oh, okay. And then boom, I took a very small loss there. Right, very tiny loss. But that was my levels. And I said, this market's not that weak and it's going to go back based on the internals. And look, it ripped. And I was just like, I did come back at around 140, saw it down here, and I was like, this is probably a buy. But I didn't pull the trigger. Of course, it ripped up after that. So, all right. So now that we see that, okay, it's really easy right now what to play. Because you have yesterday's highs, yesterday's lows, okay, overnight highs, overnight lows. Price is right where it should be at the most traded price of the week and yesterday. That's a magnet, okay? But you can see price tried to go higher in the overnight, and we came back. Now, probability is, I think we probably try to go higher and we go back down and test here today. Okay. Can we break out? Of course. And I think even if we do this, we come back. I just think there's so much uncertainty. That's probably the probability. That's only probability, doesn't mean it's forecast the future. Okay. So really, it's all about right here, 57, 55, 73. This supply, still have a gap that has not been filled. You got this supply. Okay. And then really what it comes down to is this area down here, around 5,500, and encompassing this demand zone. That's all that matters. That's really it. Okay. Because if you start to get momentum lower here, you're going to, these longs are going to cover, and then you're just going to come back into this area. And then what's going to happen? These shorts are going to take profits, and then the longs are going to come in, and you could possibly go back up to here. That's this. It's not rocket science today. Okay, now that sounds great, right? And if you're a day trader, you know price action fools everybody. Because yesterday, did you think we were going to end up here based on price action when you're just ripping lower? No. But then we go up higher, right? So whenever it seems a certain way, it's like that's what internals ground me, and I'm like, this ain't. That's why I said yesterday, I didn't. There was nothing in internals telling me it was going to go lower. All right, so let's get right into scenarios here. I'm just going to stay here. This is just easy. Like I said, easy scenario, different to execute it. All right, so let's start off with the bull case here. Now, we have this little session inside yesterday, right? Inside yesterday. We are right at the most traded price of yesterday and the most traded price of the week. That's no surprise. Okay, so you're going to move away from here, be it lower or higher. You're going to. Okay. But for the bull side, okay, a couple things that can happen. We can push up. Let's say we take out this supply. Then I would say this level right here, you're basically 55.73, confluence high. Let's say we push, pull back, and let's say we hold. That is bullish. Possibly you could fill that gap. Okay. That could happen. All right. Could. The other long, obviously, is if we try to go up, we fail, we go through the most traded price of the week. This should cause a cascading down into this area. Okay. If the market internals are like not that bearish. Okay. We're probably going to come into here, find the balance lows, and start to work ourselves back up. And we could end here for the day. It's really all I'm looking at. I'm telling you, this has to be very bullish in order for the internals have to be very bullish in order for me to insert in this. Okay. The market has to be kind of neutral for me to be interested in the long down here. Okay. So that's your long scenarios. As far as the short side goes, okay, you're already at a part where I'd be very interested in a short, okay, or holding up here. Okay, so if we trying to push up and we do one of these, right into the gap, you get a rejection, okay, higher low, you're going to come to this area, most traded price of the week. If you breach that and hold, you're going to cascade down, break the overnight lows at 55.33, and you're going to test yesterday's lows. Might even dip into this here. Okay. Now, I do believe we bounce here. I do believe we probably do a bounce. However, if we break this demand zone and we start going into these single prints, we could go down all the way here to 5,400. And I would guess from here, there's a gap still, unfilled gap here. I would think we would bounce. Okay. I think this is the more likely. We stay in this area. Okay. All right. That is the ES. Let's move over to the NASDAQ. All right. Here's your NASDAQ. Not as, you got balanced lows here. You got some levels here. All right. So same thing as far as the profile, right? Profile, you have thin volume, and then you have value area, and you have a bullish imbalance, right? To make this a bell curve, it's going to more look like that. Okay, so least resistance right now is to the upside. Okay, to the upside. What else do we have? Most traded price of the 24-hour session is right here of the week. That is your 195s. Okay, your 193.50 is the real-time trading hours, most traded price of the week. Price is right here, like I said, always gravitates towards these VPOCs. It's just how it works. Price is right on it. Yesterday's most traded price and 24-hour most traded price of the week. Now, once the market opens, this could definitely go higher, and that will become the official most traded price of the week. Okay? Then we have nice equal highs here. Okay, you have what I like to call confluence high. Let's just call it 196.30. And you have supply. Okay, you have last week's highs here. So this area is really your little mini balance highs. Okay, price is right where it's supposed to be. Okay, now we have an area down here. Okay, big demand zone, encompasses the most traded price of the week, and you have a very key low here. Okay, it's a range from 192.15 to 192.57. Obviously, there's big ranges in the Nasdaq, so I would go right from here. Yesterday's lows, another low, and another low will encompass them all with this demand zone down here. Okay, so this level right here held yesterday, right? That's the level that held. If you break that, yeah, I could see you going down here, but you're still above the most traded price of the month. That's 190. Okay, that's 190. So, like I said, it's pretty basic. Least resistance to the upside. Okay, the least resistance is to the upside. Let me put those single prints that I didn't put before. I should have them on my chart. So we still have an unfilled gap down here. I just usually like to use those, and we'll make that a single prints here. That will be the single print low. That's another thing too. I was talking about my edge. All right, gamma levels too are now becoming very important. Not that they're not important before, but like now, like flip points and all those things that I like to use are coming back into effect. We were in such negative gamma for so long that like it really didn't. That edge too was dulled, but now that is back as well. Okay, so it's a nice change for me to see what I'm usually used to seeing. The market that I'm usually my edge is a lot bigger in. Okay, all right. Now we got our single. Let me change this to single prints. Give me a sec. All right. Now we got a single prints down there. Now we can go right into scenarios here and we can wrap up for today. Alrighty. We'll start off with the bull scenarios here. It's pretty easy. Okay. A couple things can happen here. Okay. We're right at the most traded price of the rolling week in a 24-hour session right here. That's the most traded price of yesterday. Okay. So you got a lot of volume here. So what I could see happen is this. Okay. A couple things. We can like play around here and hold that level 195. If we hold 195, this is even holding, right? Even if we do this higher low, you're going to try and break that 190, what is that, 196 and change, that confluence high. If you break that, pull back, you could be off to the races. Okay. Like I said, you need pretty bullish internals to sustain that move. Yesterday, technology was weak. And it wasn't crazy weak. It got weaker as the day went on, but it was just not strong. It wasn't driving the market. Okay. What else can happen? Well, we can come back down to the current most traded price of the week and test this key low right here around 192.36. Okay. Even dip our toe into this demand. I feel that would be a buy, and you would probably go somewhere in this range today, and waiting for all that data coming out the rest of the week. Okay. As far as longs, that's really all I would see. Of course, you can come up here, break, hold, and go higher too with very bullish internals. I would only be interested with very bullish internals. Okay. That's really pretty easy today. All right. So let's get rid of those. Let's go to our bear scenario. Okay. You have demand here. You have this confluence high right here. Equal overnight high to equal RTH high from yesterday. Okay. So this part, if this is holds as resistance, okay. Remember, people are long from yesterday. People are long from the overnight lows. If you come through that level, 195, and the overnight lows, and you break that, you're just gonna most likely start to just creep down and test yesterday's lows. You might even, like I said, dip down and break that. Okay, I feel like this probably is the buy, but we got to talk about the bear. If we break this demand, we're gonna probably land at 190. Okay, you got those single prints right here. You're right into those single prints, and you could see a little quick move up, and then I would think we would probably come up. Okay. So we just have to see. Like I said, it's always based on internals for me. What's driving the market? Who's strong? I always want to go with what's strong. Meaning, if it's weak, I want to go with that weakness. So let me get clarify that again. If things are weak and the things that drive the market are weak, I want to short. Obviously, the opposite way, right? If technology is really strong and that's what drives the markets, then that's what I want to go with. Okay. Yesterday, tech was not strong, and I was looking for that pullback. I literally was ready to short, and it just didn't come to my level I wanted, and the market fell apart. Okay. So this is what I'm looking at. All right. I think it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. That's the scenarios. All right. So if you enjoyed that, please share some love. Smash that like button for me. All right. And hopefully you join me every morning. I do this every morning. Give you the lowdown on the markets, the story, the market news, the economic calendar, and of course we went over a bunch of other stuff, right? So I just gave you the long and short trade scenarios. I'll be waiting for those levels to get hit. If I don't see something I like, then there's no trade. That's why I say no trade is a trade. And stay green. And I hope everybody has a great day. Remember, a lot of data this week. Remember, it's month end this week. So we'll have to see what the markets do. Okay? So everybody have a great day. And I'll see everybody tomorrow.